Ladies and gentlemen, today we find ourselves in an age of profound connectivity where the world feels closer than ever before. Yet, this very closeness also brings new challenges, especially when it comes to the delicate balance between nature and human existence. Pandemics, the deadly forces of nature, remind us of the vulnerability inherent in this world. We often think of pandemics as sudden and unpredictable, but if we pay close attention, we will see that they are not entirely random. These health crises don't simply emerge out of nowhere. They arise from a complex web of interconnected factors that include environmental degradation, human behavior, and the way we interact with the natural world. At the core, pandemics are a result of disruption to the balance of ecosystems, the balance of how we coexist with nature, and the balance within ourselves. For centuries, humans have been expanding into new territories, breaking natural boundaries, and in the process we've invited numerous unseen risks into our lives. These risks, when combined with the right conditions, can evolve into devastating pandemics. The imbalance with nature is one of the most fundamental reasons behind the emergence of deadly pandemics. For generations, human beings have been living in ways that gradually erode the natural balance of the world. The relentless exploitation of resources, the destruction of ecosystems, and the unsustainable way we interact with the environment have led to a situation where nature's rhythms are no longer in harmony. This disturbance creates a fertile ground for diseases to emerge and spread. The process begins with our expanding influence on the planet. As we grow, we consume more. And as we consume more, we alter the natural habitats that once protected us. Forests, wetlands and other vital ecosystems are cleared or drained to make way for human activities like agriculture, urban development and resource extraction. These areas were once buffers, separating humans from the wild and creating natural barriers that kept diseases in check. But when we tear down these buffers, we allow for a more direct interaction between human populations and the wildlife that carries unseen pathogens. Animals, particularly those in the wild, are reservoirs for many of the diseases we fear. When they are displaced or stressed due to the loss of their natural habitats, they often move closer to human settlements. This proximity increases the likelihood of viruses or bacteria crossing over into human populations. Species that typically do not come into contact with one another are now forced to interact, creating an environment ripe for the transfer of diseases. Additionally, the industrialized farming methods we rely on today often fail to respect the balance of nature. Factory farming, for example, involves the intense confinement of animals in cramped conditions, which increases the spread of diseases among animals. These practices disregard the natural immune systems of animals and introduce conditions where viruses and bacteria can evolve rapidly, often jumping from animals to humans in the process. We also disrupt nature cycles in ways that may seem small but have vast repercussions. By over-harvesting resources like fish, trees and water, we weaken the delicate interdependence of ecosystems. A healthy environment operates like a well-maintained system where each part has its role to play. When one element is removed or damaged, it sets off a chain reaction that can destabilize everything. And when nature's balance is disturbed, it doesn't take long before the consequences are felt, not just in the environment but in our health and well-being as well. Another way in which this imbalance manifests is through the growing industrial pollution we dump into air, water and soil. Toxic chemicals, waste and pollutants accumulate in ecosystems, contaminating everything they touch. This often leads to the disruption of the immune systems of both animals and plants. The more we poison our environment, the more we push the boundaries of nature, creating conditions that are unnatural for all living beings. These polluted environments also become hotbeds for diseases, as weakened species become more susceptible to infections and in turn pass them on to humans. The consequences of this imbalance with nature are not limited to isolated incidents. They unfold in patterns. The rise of pandemics is one such pattern, as they often emerged when this disordered relationship with the natural world reaches a tipping point. We cannot afford to ignore the long-term impacts of our actions on the environment. The more we push against nature, the more we risk provoking forces we cannot control. The way we live on this earth has to change. We must restore the harmony that has been lost not only for the sake of the planet, but for our own survival. By addressing this imbalance, we can significantly reduce the risks of future pandemics and build a world where both humanity and nature can thrive together in equilibrium. Climate change and ecosystem disruption, these shifts create new conditions in which diseases can spread more easily, making it increasingly difficult to predict or control health crises. At the heart of climate change is the rise in global temperatures, which has far-reaching effects on ecosystems and the organisms that inhabit them. As temperatures climb, many species are forced to migrate to new areas in search of more hospitable environments. This movement of species, especially those that carry pathogens, can introduce new diseases to regions that have not previously been exposed to them. For example, as warmer climates allow mosquitoes to migrate into new territories, diseases like malaria, dengue and Zika virus can spread into previously unaffected areas, leading to public health crises. The changing climate also affects the behaviors of animals that are critical to the transmission of certain diseases. Now, many viruses are carried by species like bats or rodents, and the changing weather patterns can lead to an increase in interactions between wildlife and human populations. Additionally, climate change leads to more extreme weather events such as floods, droughts and storms. These extreme conditions can disrupt ecosystems in profound ways. Floods, for example, can bring previously isolated pathogens into new environments, creating opportunities for diseases to spread rapidly. Stagnant water left by floods can become breeding grounds for disease-carrying insects like mosquitoes, multiplying the risk of outbreaks. Similarly, droughts can force animals and humans into closer contact in search of scarce resources, heightening the chance of disease transmission. The increased frequency and severity of storms can damage infrastructure, making it more difficult to contain outbreaks or deliver medical care to affected populations. As climate change continues, the delicate balance of ecosystems is disrupted, which directly impacts the health of wildlife and by extension humans. Many ecosystems such as forests, wetlands and coral reefs regulating the spread of diseases. For example, wetlands help filter out harmful pathogens from water sources, while forests provide habitats for animals that may otherwise harbor viruses without coming into contact with human populations. When these ecosystems are damaged by rising temperatures, pollution or other human activities, their ability to serve as natural buffers is weakened. The loss of biodiversity, a common consequence of climate change, means that species that once played a key role in regulating disease are no longer available to keep pathogens in check. In addition to the direct impact on ecosystems, climate change also affects the global movement of people, which compounds the risks of pandemics. Extreme weather events and rising sea levels are displacing millions of people worldwide, forcing them to migrate from affected areas. These mass migrations create concentrated populations in refugee camps or urban centers, often in unsanitary conditions where diseases can spread quickly. The movement of people from one region to another increases the likelihood of diseases crossing borders, turning localized outbreaks into global health threats. Climate change also exacerbates other factors that make humans more susceptible to pandemics. As temperatures rise and extreme weather events become more common, food security is increasingly threatened. Crop failures due to droughts or floods, combined with disruptions to global supply chains, create conditions where malnutrition and weakened immune systems become more widespread. This makes people more vulnerable to infections, as their bodies are less able to fight off new diseases. Perhaps one of the most insidious aspects of climate change is its capacity to alter the microbial world. As temperatures increase, many microbes that were once confined to specific regions are able to expand their range. Pathogens such as bacteria, fungi and viruses thrive in warmer environments, and as the planet continues to heat up, we can expect these pathogens to evolve and adapt, making them more resistant to treatments or vaccines. This microbial shift means that even diseases once thought to be under control could re-emerge in more dangerous forms. The disruption of ecosystems also impacts human health in more subtle ways. For instance, forests play a crucial role in regulating air quality by absorbing carbon dioxide and producing oxygen. As we destroy forests, the air quality in nearby regions deteriorates, leading to respiratory illnesses and exacerbating conditions such as asthma. Similarly, the loss of healthy oceans and coral reefs, which act as carbon sinks, accelerates climate change and increases the risk of diseases related to air and water quality. Taken together, climate change and ecosystem disruption create a perfect storm for the emergence and spread of new diseases. They disturb natural disease barriers, allow pathogens to spread more easily, and increase the conditions under which humans and animals interact in ways that were once uncommon. With every degree of warming, the risks grow. What may have once been isolated outbreaks now have the potential to become global pandemics, threatening not only human health but the stability of entire societies. The message is clear. Our relationship with the environment is deeply interconnected, and the degradation of ecosystems through climate change is a direct threat to our survival. Overpopulation and urbanization are critical factors that significantly contribute to the emergence and rapid spread of pandemics. As the global population continues to grow at an unprecedented rate and more people move into densely packed urban centers, we are creating the perfect conditions for diseases to thrive and spread quickly. These trends not only strain public health systems, but also increase human vulnerability to new and evolving pathogens. Overpopulation, particularly in urban areas, creates environments where disease transmission is far more likely. In densely packed cities, people live in close quarters, often with inadequate sanitation, limited access to clean water, and overcrowded living conditions. These factors facilitate the easy spread of infectious diseases, as viruses and bacteria can move quickly from one person to another. In these environments, even simple illnesses can turn into outbreaks, and viruses can spread exponentially with little ability to contain or manage the spread in real time. The sheer number of people in close contact with one another means that diseases are not just more likely to appear, they are more likely to spread across entire cities, regions, or even countries. Urbanization compounds this problem. As people flock to cities in search of better opportunities, they bring with them not just their aspirations, but also new pathogens, which can interact with the existing microbial landscape of the city in unpredictable ways. In the process of urbanization, vast areas of natural environments are cleared to make room for infrastructure, industry, and housing. This destruction of ecosystems disrupts the balance that once kept both wildlife and human populations separated, allowing new pathogens to emerge. The shift from rural to urban living often results in greater human-wildlife interaction, especially in cities near forests or animal habitats, where pathogens traditionally confined to wild animals are now able to make their way into human populations. Another key challenge is the sheer speed with which people move in and out of urban areas. As more people travel for work, education, or leisure, the risk of disease transmission becomes global rather than local. In densely populated cities, transportation networks such as buses, subways, trains, and airports become highly efficient vectors for spreading infectious diseases. One individual carrying a virus can unknowingly infect hundreds or even thousands of people as they travel through these networks, which in turn spreads the disease to other cities, countries, and continents. This rapid movement of people across borders means that localized outbreaks can turn into global pandemics within a matter of weeks or even days, something we've seen with diseases like COVID-19 and SARS. The urban poor are especially vulnerable to pandemics. Many of the world's largest cities are home to sprawling slums and informal settlements where people live in extremely cramped conditions without adequate sanitation, clean water, or health care. In these areas, the lack of basic hygiene and overcrowded living conditions make it virtually impossible to control the spread of diseases. Without access to proper medical treatment or preventative measures, these communities become breeding grounds for infections, and the risk of a localized outbreak turning into an epidemic increases dramatically. Overpopulation and urbanization also put immense pressure on healthcare systems. As cities grow and populations swell, the demand for medical services skyrockets, often outpacing the ability of healthcare infrastructure to keep up. Hospitals and clinics, already stretched thin in many parts of the world, become overwhelmed by the sheer volume of people seeking care, making it more difficult to detect, isolate and treat patients in a timely manner. In the midst of a pandemic, overwhelmed healthcare systems cannot effectively control the spread of the disease, resulting in a higher death toll and further exacerbating the crisis. Furthermore, urbanization often leads to significant social inequality, with marginalized populations living in areas with limited access to resources, including healthcare, education and clean water. These communities are particularly at risk during a pandemic, as they are less likely to have the resources to protect themselves from infection or to access care if they fall ill. This inequality can exacerbate the spread of disease, as poor living conditions and inadequate healthcare contribute to higher infection rates and more widespread transmission. As we stand at the crossroads of an ever-changing world, it's clear that the challenges we face — overpopulation, urbanization, climate change and the destruction of ecosystems — are deeply interconnected. Pandemics, as we've seen time and again, are not isolated events, but the product of the imbalances we've created through our actions. These crises are a reflection of our relationship with the planet, one that has become increasingly strained. However, this understanding also offers us a powerful opportunity. The choices we make moving forward, how we live, how we treat the natural world, how we manage our cities and communities, will determine the future we create. We have the knowledge, the resources and the capacity to make a difference. By fostering a deeper respect for nature, prioritizing sustainable growth and addressing social inequalities, we can begin to shift the trajectory that has brought us to this point. The question is not whether we will face more pandemics, but whether we will be ready to confront them with wisdom, preparedness and collective action. The world is not separate from us, and it's not too late to heal the fractures that have led to these global health crises. Together, we can choose a path that leads to greater harmony, both with the earth and with each other, ensuring a future where pandemics are not inevitable but preventable. Thank you.